Thank you. We have a tradition here at the Reagan Library of starting every public event with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you join me, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please take your seats. Again, good morning. Welcome to the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Foundation. My name is Glenn Baker, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the Reagan Foundation. I'd like to start today by recognizing, calling out those that are in attendance today. We have many of our own staff. They're kind of coming in around the back, and we've got some of our docents here today. We have your teachers and chaperones, and of course we have all you students. You probably have noticed that we're also filming this. The cameras are on in the back. In addition to showing the presentation up here on the screens, we're also webcasting our efforts today. As I was coming on, I was flashed a number here. We've got about 30 classrooms, which is probably about 1,000 kids watching via the web. So welcome to all of them as well. Lastly, I want to recognize and thank our panelists who have joined us here today. We'll be introducing them a little more formally in just a few minutes. Today's event is the first of what we plan to be many speaker events offered to students as part of the Walter and Leonore Annenberg Presidential Learning Center here at the Ronald Reagan Library. Our Presidential Learning Center is committed to engaging you students as the future leaders of our country in the study of our nation's democratic ideals and processes to help you become proactive, informed, and conscientious citizens and leaders. I was asked today to greet you in part because I'm a veteran, having served in the United States Air Force. For me, I still consider those years an important part of my life, even though my time in the military ended over 20 years ago. So for this event today, our mission is twofold. Two things we want to get across. We've brought together an impressive panel of veterans to talk with you about the route people choose to become active citizens by answering the call to service and joining the military in the service of their country. Our panelists have volunteered to come here and share their stories, their adventures, and their lives so that you can learn from them. So the first part of our mission today is about citizenship. The second part of our mission today is to honor our military. As you know, tomorrow the nation celebrates Veterans Day. Also today, by coincidence, it's the 235th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. We have at least two Marines with us today, Nicole and Chris. Anyone else in the audience, Marines? I know we have one over here. Well, happy birthday to the Marines, and to you three, happy 235th birthday. In addition to the Marine Corps, our panelists also represent the United States Army and the United States Army Air Corps, and later the Air Force. Combined, they've served in World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Operation Desert Storm, and Operation Iraqi Freedom. They all had different motives for why they answered the call to service. They have a broad range of combat and leadership experiences, and I'm sure they've had some very trying times and some difficult experiences they learned from and will probably never forget. President Reagan, he respected the military and he honored them regularly. Before he was president, during the time he was president, and then after his presidency, oftentimes right here at his library. To continue his work, today as part of this program, we can honor our panelists, those representatives of the military, and thank them for their service. And then tomorrow, we can more broadly honor all veterans for their service. So I encourage you, don't just sit back and relax today. Enjoy the program, but listen carefully to what these people have come to share with you. Ask them questions, and reflect about the ways that you, as members of our great country, can become better and more active citizens. Now, to moderate your session and introduce our veteran panelists, I'd like to introduce Krista Kohlhausen, our director of the Walter and Leonore Annenberg Presidential Learning Center. Thank you. Have a good time. Krista?
Great. Thank you, Glenn. Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to the library. And I'm going to start the introductions for our wonderful panel. Over at the far end, we have Nicole Johansen, Captain Johansen. She was commissioned in the Marine Corps in 2002 as logistics officer. As part of Operation Iraqi Freedom, she deployed to Kuwait and Iraq. She served as executive officer of Combat Logistics Company 115. In January of 2008, she left active duty. Currently, she is a reservist in the Marine Corps and is working on her master's in business administration at the University of Southern California. Welcome to Nicole. Next, we're lucky to have Robert Henline with us. He served in Operation Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom. In April of 2007, his truck was hit by an IED and 38% of his body was burned. He has had more than 40 surgeries over the last 3 years. Currently, Mr. Henline is a stand-up comedian and motivational speaker and has been featured on NPR and will be featured in a photographic exhibit with Tempered Steel, an organization that educates by exposing the very real human stories behind the wounds of war. Welcome, Bobby. Next, please help me welcome Chris McIntyre, who was raised in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, a city that later became famous when United Flight 93 crashed there on September 11th, 2001. Mr. McIntyre served 3 tours of duty in Vietnam and directed 21 and a Wake Up, the first American film about the Vietnam War to be filmed in Vietnam. He is also an advisor to the Korean War Museum and is working to develop a program that encourages youth to use digital media to document the stories of Vietnam vets. Welcome, Chris. And last but certainly not least, we have Clyde East. He's a real American hero. He served in the Air Force in both World War II and in the Korean War. He flew more than 200 missions and amassed more than 350 hours of combat flying time. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Silver Star, and 43 air medals. By the end of the Korean War, Mr. East earned 3 oak leaf clusters and was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the highest number of repeat awards for combat medals. Please help me welcome Clyde East. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to begin at the fun part now with asking questions to our panelists. My first question is, I'm asking you all to talk about your personal call to service. What led you to join the military? Anyone like to take that question?
I'll start.
Thank you.
In my sophomore year of college, in the year 2000, I believe, I learned about Marine Corps Officer Candidate School. And it sounded really interesting, and I wanted to do the challenge. I wanted to challenge myself. And so I decided to join the Marine Corps after college in order for the challenge and also to give back to my country rather than going the traditional route of my peers.
Great, thank you.
I actually came from a Navy family. I was a Navy brat growing up. And so at 17, my uncle, who was about 6 years older than me, wanted to go in the military, so he wanted me to go with him in a buddy system. Well, my uncle didn't pass the test, so I went in the Army by myself at 17. I served in Desert Storm and then got out in 92 and met my family, met my wife, had my kids, and was it 10 years later, a 10-year break in service, and after 9/11, I felt the need to come back in. You know, I need to be there for my country and the experience I had before. I can give to the new troops that are out there, and that's why I came back in the second time.
My particular call to service came as a letter in the mail. It said, "Greetings." It was back in the day, there was a thing that none of you have experienced, and hopefully will not experience, called the draft. And I was in college and supposedly paying attention to what was going on, but I really wasn't. I was actually racing motorcycles when I should have been in school. And oddly enough, they don't give a draft deferment for racing motorcycles, so I got drafted. And back in the Vietnam War days, you got drafted for 2 years. And I went and saw all 5 of the services that you could join, because if you joined another service before you had to report, they would let you do so. And as I was telling Bobby earlier, the only one that didn't have a line was the Marine Corps, because nobody wanted to go in the Marine Corps because they were pretty sure you were going to go to Vietnam. So I went in the Marine Corps. I joined for 4 years, went to Vietnam for 3 of the 4, and had probably the best time of my life.
As a young farm boy, 1941, I decided that I had the best chance of winning wings and flying an airplane by going to Canada, so I did. And I served in the Canadian Air Force for almost 3 years, and from that point on, I was in the American Air Force, and I really, for a selfish reason, i.e. I wanted to be a pilot, I joined. It didn't take me long to understand that there are many other great reasons for being a service person. Thank you.
So you can see there's some different reasons for joining the military, and I enjoyed hearing all of them. Thank you. My next question is, what has your time in the military taught you about being a good citizen?
I'll start again.
Okay.
It taught me that you can do anything to give back. You can help your buddy, your friend, your fellow Marine, your classmate do the smallest thing, and it'll make a difference. If you volunteer, just the smallest things make a difference, and that's pretty much what I learned, and that everybody can apply to day-to-day life. I mean, you can serve your country and serve your community in a variety of ways, and I encourage everybody to do so.
I don't think you put it much better than that. You learn leadership and teamwork, and really how to work together with other people to accomplish what you need to accomplish. And yeah, I think that's what we all really learn. It's a really good lesson.
Great.
John Kennedy, in his inaugural address, said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." That is an ideal that I think has been lost. And I think your generation is a generation that could pick up that mantle and really apply it to yourselves. What the Marine Corps, and actually what the war in Vietnam taught me more than just the Marine Corps, because we all had similar experiences in the service. And the service certainly teaches you a tremendous self-reliance. You can do absolutely anything. You should never accept the answer no under any circumstance, unless you're doing something wrong, of course, which I usually was. But it has taught me the high regard in which America is justifiably held around the world, and that we, in fact, are the last best hope for freedom, the best country in the world, I believe, for that reason and many others. And it's up to your generation to continue that, and I think every one of you should consider a service in the military. There's nothing like it.
As I mentioned before, I did join the military for a very selfish reason. I wanted to get something out of it. But I found out almost immediately that you get a lot more from serving in the service than you have to put in. And I became really patriotic after serving my country and having the background of quite a bit of combat and that sort of thing. It only makes you love your country more once you have that kind of a business behind you.
Great, thank you. Just some of the notes I took from that last answer that I would love to highlight. Thank you all for sharing, but giving back, volunteering, leadership, and teamwork. Those are just 4 takeaways that I think are extremely important to note about their choices, what they've learned, and what we hope that everyone here can start to think about and take away with them. My last question for now is, and feel free to answer in any order, what advice do you have for students about the different ways they can serve their country? So adding on a little bit more to the last question.
Basically, we talked about, you learned the teamwork, giving back, volunteering. You don't have to go into the service. This country's more than just a service. We could help each other out just by giving yourself and your time to the person next to you. Help somebody else out, and then hopefully they'll pass that on, and we'll have good things from that.
Great, thank you. All right. I love all the enthusiasm.
To build on what Bobby was saying, I mean, like I said before, and like he just said, you can give back in a variety of ways. I think we've gotten to the point where everybody expects a lot from the government, expects a lot from the United States, but nobody realizes how that gets there. And in order to make the country better and to continue the great benefits that we enjoy from the United States, we all need to give back in some way, whether it's community service, civil service, military service. In your own way, everybody can give back. So just think about what you can do in your community, I mean, today or tomorrow.
Great.
My best friend, who was actually killed in Vietnam, told me something very simple that his grandfather passed on to him, and I have found it to be absolutely true, as you will. You can find something every single day to do for someone. It's that simple. There's not a day that goes by that you cannot find something to do. Sometimes it'll be something amazing, sometimes it'll be something simple. Carrying a friend's grocery bags home. It will make you a better person and make America a better place. Find something to do for someone every day.
Well, one of the things that you are facing every day is what do I do now? And as time goes by, you find in the service that you get more and more responsibilities, and you begin to really believe that this country is more than worth fighting for. It's worth dying for, or whatever.
I'm giving everyone a little bit more thinking to do in the audience, but starting back with what Captain Johansen said, what can you do to make your country better? Or fill in the blank a little bit smaller. Your classroom, your town, your city. Think that way. What can you do to make it better? What can you do to give back? That's a little bit of what today is about. At this point, I get to turn the question and answer period over to you all. And I know Janet Tran and Tony Penny have been out to a bunch of schools over the last couple weeks preparing you for this part of the program. And we have some great questions from the audience. If you have a question, if you raise your hand, if you prepared one or you've thought of one after hearing from these great panelists, something came to mind, please raise your hand and one of our staff members will come over to you at this time. Great, hands up a little higher. Thank you. Look at all those questions. Okay, but I do believe we do have our online audience, and our first question from the audience is actually going to be from online. And Tony, you're going to direct us with that question?
Sure. Our first question, I posted it to Twitter, came in through email, but I don't want to show the email. But it from online. So how has your experience in the military been a benefit to your regular life or your civilian life?
Anyone like to answer that question?
I will go again. can't tell. It has made me just a better person. I mean, you learn to work as a team. You learn to subordinate yourself to the mission or what you need to do in order to get the job done. There's also a variety of benefits. It has made me a better candidate for jobs. Everybody wants to hire somebody from the military because we all have, leadership experience that most civilians don't get. There's also a ton of benefits, such as education benefits, which I'm using right now, veterans groups, and just a sense of solidarity.
Great. Anyone else want to add on to that? Okay. We do have another question coming up to the podium. Great.
Hi, my name is Jose Macias from Discovery Prep Charter School. My question is for Mr. McIntyre. What was your initial response to being drafted to the military?
Holy smoke. My entire family had a military background. My father fought with General Patton in North Africa. His twin brother, my uncle, my brother, the Marine Corps. My great-grandfather fought with Blackjack Pershing in World War I. So I come from a military family, but not a family that's stayed in the military. No one made the military a career. So it wasn't something that really was on my radar. Nevertheless, getting that letter was not a surprise because everyone of allegedly sound mind and body, which is they certainly made a mistake in my case, expected that letter every week. There were really back in those days, it was very much an anti-war time, as you've probably read. I had the fortune to be in the Marine Corps from 1967 to 1971. So I saw the very tail end of when America was really patriotic and very much behind the Vietnam War in 65 when I graduated from high school, 66, 67, to where it really turned against the war in 1968, 69, 70, and you really saw a deterioration of the military by 1971 and people's attitudes, somewhat what my movie's about. A lot of people, no one I knew, but they were in the news every day, had a choice when I got drafted to go to Canada. President Carter pardoned, I don't know how many, everybody who went to Canada, but it was thousands of people. That's something I really didn't consider. So when you get the letter, you think about, I'm going in. I got the letter in June, and I think I had to report by August. What you really think about is, because we lost, as you probably know, 58,000 men and 8 women, 8 nurses in Vietnam. You really think about, am I going to die over there? And I had this really romantic idea of people really looking back on me and having parades in my honor and all this stuff like that. You think of all this weird stuff. So I gave away everything that I owned. I gave away my car, my books, my record collection, everything. Not in a sad way, but in a sort of a happy way. So when I left for Paris Island on a broken down old DC-3, I almost got killed going to Paris Island. You really were just walking away from a life into a life that you didn't know what to expect. I hope that answers some of your questions.
Great. Thank you. Our next question from the audience.
Hi, my name is Sammy. I'm from SCPI Charter School. My question is for Mr. East.
Okay.
Out of all the tragedies in the war, what lessons did you learn?
Well, of course, it's sort of an old saying. It's a terrible thing, but somehow or another you feel it was necessary. During World War II, I was in a squadron that lost almost as many young pilots as we had on the roster. But of course, we had plenty of replacements, so that was no problem as far as getting the job done was concerned. But you cannot forget those guys. They, as the poet says, they shall grow not old as we grow old. And that certainly is the truth, and it comes back to me every day, that the debt that we owe those people who are long since dead is the fact that we just cannot ever forget how much they did and how much we owe to them.
Thank you. The next question.
Hi, my name is Izomar. I'm from Discovery Charter. My question is for Mr. McIntyre. How did not being seen as a hero when returning home affect you emotionally?
It didn't really affect me at all, quite honestly. I believe that what you hear about Vietnam and people being spit on and things like that, while it certainly happened, is very overblown. I just came back home and went to work. I'm fortunate that Shanksville, a little town of 190 people that we referred to earlier, was a small farming community in western Pennsylvania, was a very patriotic place. And so literally coming back home, almost everyone who was in my class of 39 people, I think there were 18 guys, I think, and 21 gals. And half of the people signed up right out of high school to join and go to Vietnam. So it was a highly thought of and patriotic thing to do. So I didn't experience any of that kind of thing. And honestly, I don't think anybody came back expecting to be thought of as a hero, unless, like Clyde, you're an actual hero.
Well, I could add something to that. My son was in Vietnam for 14 months as a Marine ground pounder. I guess they called them grunts, right? Mm-hmm. And he was extremely upset when he came home, and no one even knew that he had been gone, as far as he could tell, at Camp Pendleton. And I was very upset at that, because at the end of World War II, when we arrived back in the States, we were greeted with open arms by everyone, and many thanks. But it hurts. It hurt him, and he never really got over it. So the answer to that is consider your military. They don't do it because they like it, as a general rule. They do it because it's duty.
I'd actually like to add on to that in kind of just reflecting on how we're received now. I think because of the reaction to Vietnam vets, a lot of that generation now takes a lot of time and effort to make sure that troops are greeted. You stop off in Bangor, Maine at 2 a.m. coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, and there are a ton of people there waiting to, hug you, give you, candy, give you a phone so you can call home. So I think the experience of what happened in Vietnam, it's like completely the opposite. It's kind of, everybody's going over the top now, which is great to see such a warm reception for our troops.
Well, and the main reason that it's like that is because of the Vietnam vets that said, we ain't gonna let this happen again. They took what they learned and they made it better for the next generation of troops going out. So it's thanks to them, it doesn't happen anymore.
Hi, I'm Marissa, and I attend Somas Academy Charter School. My question is for Ms. Nicole Johansen. What was it like working with just men?
Well, there's not just men. It's mostly men.
Just a few.
In the Marine Corps, it's about 6% female. From the officers, it's about 3%. Quite honestly, for me, my personality, I grew up with two brothers in Long Island, New York, so I'm a little bit tougher than kind of an average person. And I mean, they treated me, some of them would be like, oh my goodness, it's a girl. But then they get to know you, and eventually they just treat you like one of the guys. And it's not as bad as everybody thinks it is. I really enjoy it, actually. A lot of my good friends are a lot of the guys that I served with, and it's they're like a whole bunch of brothers for me. So, yeah.
I think someone else close to you is.
Oh, my husband is Marine, so he obviously thought it was okay for girls to be in the Marine Corps. So.
There you go. Great question.
Hello, my name is David. I am from Sinai Kiva Academy, and my question is for everyone, and it is, how has being in war changed your outlook on life?
Just for myself, very briefly, one of the things it does is make every day, at least for me, much more valuable than it might have been otherwise. For no particular reason other than the fact that I was born a jerk, I think, is I had quite a temper before I went in the Marine Corps. I didn't like to yell at people or throw things around, but I was more hot-tempered than I had any right to be, for no particular reason. I don't think I've had a bad day since then. My temper is completely gone. They don't teach you to do that, it just happens. You just value every day of your life, I think, and that's a tremendous benefit of being in the service.
For me, you value the simple things like having a toilet in the house, running water, air conditioning, simple things like that. But also, it just, in kind of a negative way, it makes you frustrated when people don't appreciate the sacrifices that you know that your friends have made. And I feel like a lot of people take things for granted, and I mean, in some ways it frustrates me more since I've been deployed because of that, because a lot of people forget what's going on overseas right now, just because you get lost in the day-to-day life, and it's a little bit frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, you can't say it enough. You learn to really appreciate the small things in life and respect what we have here when you come back home. Like you said, the little things. And then again, with the other people abusing their freedoms, I think the best way you can thank your veterans, which I like to say I'm doing now, is thanking my other veterans, is living life to the fullest. Take advantage of the freedom you've been given and live your life to the fullest. But there's a difference when you start abusing it and don't understand what it is. And that's what today's, it's one of those days that's great to bring out that awareness.
Would you like to answer?
I was a career military officer. I was in service for 25 years, and that was my life. I, of course, had family responsibilities and so forth, and tried to live the same as most of my contemporaries. But again, once you decide on a military career, there's a lot of things that you have to forego in order to be what you want to do best. That is, do your job and, of course, gain recognition if you can. However, the real point about being in the service is to serve, and to, when you're there, do the very best you can, and be proud of what has happened when you are, as I did after 25 years, decided that civilian life was for me, and it has been. I've enjoyed it very much.
Great. Thank you all. And our next student question.
is Brandon. I'm from SCVI Charter School, and my question is for Clyde East. Mr. East, what made you join the military other than the other people who weren't exactly brave enough?
My service in the military, of course, goes back to third or fourth grade when I decided I wanted to be a pilot. And as time went by, there didn't seem to be much of a chance that I would do that. Along comes World War II, and the world opened for me. I went to Canada, became a pilot in the Canadian Air Force, and from that point on, I joined the American Air Force and spent 25 years flying airplanes, doing exactly what I loved. And I never for one moment regretted the fact that I made that choice, although a lot of people thought I had lost my mind but when I left to go to Canada.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Susan Ariola. I come from Discovery Prep, and my question is for Robert Henline. And why did you decide to become a stand-up comedian?
My therapist actually talked me into it. Going through all the stretching and rehab, it's a lot of pain. It's painful trying to get your scars to let you get your movement back again. And so I would crack jokes with them about the burns and everything, just to deal with the pain. And they kept bugging me to finally do it. And I can't do that. I didn't think I can do it. I didn't think I could make people laugh at what happened to me. But she finally talked me in. I actually did it here in LA. I was out visiting a doctor, and she has a sister in LA. And I promised her if her sister could find a place on a Monday night in LA, I wasn't thinking that I would do it. Like, no one's going to be Monday night, of course, it's LA, duh. The Comedy Store had open mic, so I had to quickly write down some jokes. And I got 3 minutes, fell in love with it, went back to San Antonio, and been doing it since. I've been able to raise money for troops, different foundations, Operation Homefront, the Fisher House Foundation, and then we're going on helping other nonprofits with it now.
Could you tell us one of your jokes?
Oh yeah. Like the first joke I wrote was about the burns. I didn't know if I can get people to laugh at what really happened to me, so I told them that it's actually a rare birth defect. That my mother had to work through her pregnancy, and unfortunately for me and my brother, she worked at the circus as a fire eater. And now she thinks she has the right to complain to me about her acid reflux. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question.
My name is Josh Medizadeh, and I'm from Sinai Kiva, and my question is for Mr. Henline as well. You've obviously made a lot of sacrifices when you were in the service outside of it. Were they worth it for everything you've done for your country?
Yes, definitely worth it. I'd go back again if I can. Matter of fact, I'm trying to set up a USO tour right now. I want to go back and thank the troops out there for continuing on, tell my story, tell them some jokes, and thank them for continuing what they're doing. Definitely. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Victoria Herbert, and I attend Slonis Academy. My question is for Clyde East. When you went into World War II, did you expect to get honored for your dedication to your country?
Not necessarily. As I have mentioned a couple of times, I did it for a selfish reason. I wanted to fly airplanes. I loved the notion of handling an airplane in the air, and this was my best chance of doing this. And I never regretted for one moment the fact that I was so set on becoming a pilot, and the fact that I also served my country, that was a plus, above the fact that I really enjoyed flying so much. Now, not very many people have the luck to have a dream and have it totally fulfilled, as was my case. And I never regretted for one moment the fact that I decided to choose a military career, and I was fortunate in being able to fly airplanes.
Next question.
My name is Zadie Yonashak, and I go to Santa Barbara. I go to the Santa Barbara Christian Homeschooling Group, and my question is for Mr. McIntyre. I was just wondering, when you were in the Vietnam War and at home there were all those anti-war demonstrations going on, how did that make you feel?
The anti-war feeling in this country really started in 1966, a year before I was drafted and went in. And as has often been said, all the cute girls were in the anti-war movement. So I flirted with the anti-war movement myself. When I was in college, virtually all of the speakers who would come to events like this were anti-war. I do not recall that a single person from ROTC or the military was ever invited to the university to speak. They weren't banned from campus or anything else like that, like they are in some places like today. And so I got very familiar with the anti-war movement. Anti-war literature was everywhere. There were anti-war newspapers in every major city. And so you really got to understand the passion that the anti-war people felt and why they felt it. And so it didn't bother me that much. And another reason, of course, is in Vietnam, about a third of us were draftees. I mean, a third of the soldiers in Vietnam at any given time were draftees. And so they're always playing anti-war music and the hooch and things like that. So it wasn't just back home. You were surrounded by it. And almost all of it was very good-natured. I don't think, we complained about our boss and things like that, just like anybody does who works in an office. And that was sort of just combined with the fact that soldiers complain more than any other life form on earth. And so that all kind of combined with the anti-war movement and things like that. It was actually, it was fine. It didn't bother me at all. Because with rare exception of some really vicious things that were said against the soldiers themselves, it was just America exercising its right to be free.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Cadet Savage. I'm with the Silver Patrol. I had a question for Captain Johansen. What made you choose the Marine Corps?
Nothing against the other services, but I thought it was the best. I mean, if I was going to do it, I was going to do the best. So, for me as a female, the biggest challenge was the Marine Corps, since it is mostly a male's club. So again, that's just me being competitive and wanting to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. So that's why I chose the Marine Corps.
I see a pattern in your answers. Do you hear it? Does everyone else hear that? Thank you. Great question.
Hello, I'm Chris, and I'm from a CVI charter school, and my question is for Mr. McIntyre. How many of your friends were lost in Vietnam, and how did it make you feel?
I was in an aircraft electronic countermeasures unit, so at a very large base, and I had the opportunity. You only had to serve one tour in Vietnam, unlike Nicole's generation today that has to go back again and again and again because we don't have enough service people today to really handle the war. There's been, I think, about 650,000 servicemen net less now than there were 10 years ago. So they need to keep going back. In my particular case, you were drafted for 2 years, of which you spent one 12 or 13-month tour, depending whether you were in the Army or the Marine Corps. I fell in love with Vietnam. The minute I stepped off the airplane, I fell in love with the country, fell in love with the people. It's an amazing place. And I couldn't wait to go back, nor could any of my friends. I didn't lose anyone there that I knew of at the time. The friends that I lost from high school and people who I knew before, I didn't know that they had died until I actually saw their names on the wall. First time I went back there years later. It is incredibly moving to know, as Clyde said, that they had given their lives. And what touched my heart the most, and still does, is every single one of my friends that passed away in Vietnam were not draftees. They were people who volunteered to go. And I just think America owes them a great debt, as it does everyone who volunteers at all.
Thank you.
And this is going to be our last question. I apologize, there were many students lined up, and we just unfortunately have a time limit today. But this is our last question before.
Thank you. So it better be a good one, right?
It will be a good one, and you'll be proud of it. My question is, generally, when you joined before the Vietnam War, were there any sacrifices that you had to make? Were they good? Were they bad? How did you deal with them? Was it hard to? And the last thing is, at any certain point, did you ever think you wouldn't make it or you gave up?
I guess we'll just go across. I joined after the Vietnam War. I just want to clarify that. But
Look good for your age.
well, for me, sacrifices, being away from your family, I had to miss a lot by being deployed a lot. I mean, with 3 separate tours, I was gone a lot. I missed a lot of things. Also, my husband, we didn't get to spend a lot of time with each other. There was one point where he deployed for 7 months. We saw each other for 3 weeks, got engaged. I deployed for 7 months. Then we got married a couple months later. Then I deployed again for 7 months, and then kept on going. So there's personal sacrifices for not being there for your family. Then also moving around a lot. Again, you can't really put down roots. And then there's, I think, war does change you. I mean, more some than others. And some of it is a sacrifice. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of sacrifices. The obvious sacrifices we make. Like she's saying, that the family makes a big sacrifice too. I have 4 children. My oldest, that's when she was going from 12 to she's 19 now. So I did 3 deployments, come home, and she's a young lady, and now she's going off to college after I got hurt. So I really missed a lot of that part of her life. And not having you there, they miss having you there. So the family definitely makes a big sacrifice through all this. And when you get hurt like this, it's another piece of the puzzle and sacrifice that goes on longer for them. And it takes a strong family support to get through this. And then there's also the sacrifices for me. For my instance, was 4 other guys in the Humvee with me that didn't make it home. I was the only survivor out of that Humvee. And but instead, at first I did the why me. But I turned it around and I started saying, all right, I've been given this. I need to live for them. I need to go on for them so they didn't die in vain. That God spared me for a reason, and I need to take those signs He gives me and live the life and the mission that He's given me. And that's what helped pushes me on today.
You want to go next?
Well, as far as sacrifices are concerned, I do not believe in my mind that there were any sacrifices. I enjoyed what I was doing. I loved the people I worked with. And also, I saw the results of our service together. And consequently, there were certain family difficulties that ensued as a result of separations and that sort of thing. But I didn't consider them really sacrifices. That's the kind of thing that comes with doing a job, and you have those kinds of events both inside and outside the military.
For me, in Vietnam, I didn't really think of any personal sacrifice. I grew up fairly poor, and so it wasn't a great sacrifice for me. I wasn't walking away from an amazing career or anything else like that. Once I determined I was going in the Marine Corps, as Nicole said, joining the very, very best service, in our opinion, it became something you were proud of rather than having a sacrifice. But once I got to South Vietnam and saw the sacrifice that our men were making on behalf of the people of South Vietnam, and the sacrifice that the South Vietnamese themselves were willing to make for freedom, our personal sacrifices, at least to me, just melted away to nothing.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you for all four of your answers. I will always remember those inside my head, and as I grow up, I will always remember what you have said. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there were a ton of moving parts and teamwork to make this first speaker series program here at the Walter and Leonore Annenberg Presidential Learning Center a success. I thank all my coworkers and teammates here from the library. Thank you all for everything you've done. Teachers, need to thank you for bringing your classes here, both online and on site. Students, I'm impressed by your questions. I know that after today, you're going to walk away appreciating these people, what they've done, and start thinking about, or maybe you've already started from the questions I heard, how can you give back and what can you do to be an active citizen? Finally, please join me in thanking these tremendous people up here who have come to share their stories and answer questions for you all. Thank you all for coming.